Well, good afternoon, Mr. President, the Executive Board, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'd first like to thank our President Carlos and the Executive Board for allowing us the time at this year's annual conference to recognise the Jim Collins Memorial Award. Some presentations are easy, this one is not because it comes from the heart. The Erebus accident, the tragedy and the controversy has time and time again been raised in public profile from the day of the accident until now, nearly 30 years on. NZ ALPA hopes this year to help find some closure for families of the crew lost to Erebus. We start today recognising a man pivotal in this tragedy, a man who marked the turning point in the controversy, the man who gave the families of the crew hope. As surely as this Air New Zealand DC-10 has just disappeared into the cloud, the loss of Air New Zealand flight TE901, a DC-10 on Mount Erebus in the Antarctica on the 28th of November 1979, will forever be a date of national remembrance for New Zealanders. 5 flight deck crew, 3 pilots and 2 flight engineers, 15 cabin crew, 237 passengers, all lost. This year, 2009, marks the 30th anniversary of this tragedy. Got the next slide in, Glenn? And you can see up here, the flight departed in the morning from Auckland, passing through Christchurch to pick up passengers, refuel. Then it headed down south to the Auckland Islands, the Balleny Islands, across to Cape Hallett, and then down into the McMurdo area where they're going to do some sightseeing, and then return via Cape Hallett back to Campbell Island and into Christchurch and onto Auckland, arriving late in the evening. If the weather around the McMurdo Sound wasn't good, then they had an alternate scenic route out here to the South Magnetic Pole and back via the Auckland Islands. This accident marks the greatest loss of life to transport to the most remote location since the Titanic. Mount Erebus, an active volcano 12,500 feet high on the Ross Island, part of the Antarctic continent 2,300 nautical miles to the south of New Zealand. Last year's NZ ALPA conference heard personal accounts from 2 members of the New Zealand Police who led the body recovery team on Erebus. They still feel the emotion and the grief of what they did and what they saw all those years ago. Their story left a lasting impression on delegates. It was kind of hard just to imagine exactly what these guys had been through. They arrived down in the Antarctic having never experienced conditions like that before. After a couple of days of briefings, they were flown out to the site. The site was very difficult to land on. It was on a slope, so it was difficult to get out of the helicopters. And they set up camp there in tents for 12 days. 12 days non-stop. It was the Antarctic summer, so it was 24 hours of sunlight. And they worked for those 12 days, 8-hour shifts on and off for the entire 12 days. Antarctic storms, open crevasses, ice and snow, working amongst the wreckage. I think it's just about impossible to think of the impact that this must have had on their lives. And it's still with them with them today. This year will see the launch of NZ Alpa's Erebus website. Our goal for the site is for it to be the definitive source of information on this, the most tragic accident in New Zealand's history. The site will tell the story of flight TE901 to Antarctica and will provide a place of remembrance for relatives and friends of those lost, a place to post photos and words to reflect their thoughts. A section designed as a research tool for schools, and the two controversial reports into the cause of the accident and related commentary to help future visitors understand what happened 30, 40 and 50 years ago. 6 months after the accident, the Chief Inspector of Air Accident Investigation, Ron Chippendale, released a report. It cited pilot error, flying too low, as the primary cause of the accident. Before the release of this report, the public outcry for information and answers saw a Royal Commission established by the government. 17 months after the accident, High Court Judge the Honourable Peter Mann released his findings. The report, in contrast, and critical of the Chief Investigator, exonerated the pilots. He found that the destination waypoint near McMurdo Station had been mistakenly shifted by airline navigation personnel 27 miles without notifying the crew, which resulted in the crew keying in their own demise. He found that the 3 independent navigation systems confirmed to the crew that they were on track. And finally, a cruel twist of fate, that the visual switching of Lewis Bay for McMurdo Sound, a powerful illusion caused by sector whiteout, all confirmed the mindset of the crew, who saw exactly what they expected to see right up to impact. A flat white plateau of sea ice extending to the far distant horizon with textured cliffs on each side. No showers between them and the apparent horizon in the distance. They were trapped. So let's just have a look at what happened a little closer. This photo that you see here is a photograph that was found at the wreckage site from a camera of a passenger on board the aircraft, and it was a photo that they determined was taken out of the aircraft just minutes before the accident. And you can see quite clearly from the photo that it's great visibility on the day. You can see the sea ice and sea of the Antarctic, and then just some of the texture of any terrain that was around at the area. And bearing in mind that in Justice Mann's analysis and investigation, there were an awful lot of photographs that they had developed from the accident site, and so they're actually able to build a picture from the cabin, if you like, as to what the conditions around the aircraft was as it approached Mount Erebus. Next slide, thanks, Glenn. And so we've come now to the 2 tracks that many of us have seen over the last number of years. The first track here is the intended flight path which came down McMurdo Sound. And bearing in mind that all this area around here, what you see in white up here is the ice shelf, so it's frozen, and then at the head of it is the landmass up here of McMurdo Sound. Off to the right there, with the reprogramming of the destination waypoint down here the night before, is the track that was actually flown. And the important thing to realise from this is that this whole area here, of course, is white, and then the vast majority of all the landmass around here is also white. As you come up Lewis Bay here, and as you come up McMurdo Sound here, the only relief that is visible is the texture of the cliff lines where the snow and the ice isn't able to compact. And so you have the cliff lines onto the left of the actual track, to the right, and up McMurdo Sound on the right there and off to the left.